Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. I'm your host, Will Bland, and today we have an incredibly inspiring guest joining us to talk a little bit about some of the obstacles and lessons that he's learned through growing his nonprofit business, as well as in giving back. But before I get into fully introducing our guest, I do want to say thank you, as always, for allowing us to be a part of your journey. I've been receiving some incredible feedback, getting messages from new friends and old friends, just on how the current episodes that we have out have been making an impact in their lives. I love getting that feedback. So please continue to reach out. Let us know if there's things we can improve as well. If you've listened before, you know that there's an ask, but it's very small. It's just that you like and subscribe on whatever platform you listen on. Leave a 5-star review. It truly goes a long way to help other people find us as well. Continue to comment with your thoughts and questions. If there's something that you want to elaborate on from an episode or have a question about from an episode, reach out, send us a message, drop a comment. We love to hear from you. And ultimately, if you find the information useful, share it. Tell somebody else. The goal is for us to grow and to make an impact. Without further ado, our guest today is the leader behind Collide Coffee Company, which is a nonprofit that's an extension of GL Ministries. If I get anything wrong, you let me know.
It's Go Ministries. Yep, you're good.
Go Ministries. Okay. And we met a long time ago.
Yep.
We went to high school together. So we've been acquainted for several years, followed each other on social media, and then we reconnected through a passion for coffee. And his story and his growth have been inspiring to watch. I've seen him start with just selling bags of coffee to opening and operating a coffee truck that gives back 10% of every purchase to local-led healthcare programs in underdeveloped communities in the Dominican Republic, which is just incredible, awesome human being. He is a husband, a father, a friend, a genuinely just selfless person, and so much more. Juan Casa de Valle, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Will. No, it's been a pleasure. It's been great kind of watching your journey, seeing other people that we know like Javier and Joey kind of, being on the podcast as well and learning things about them. I've known them for many, many years too, but learning things of their goals, how they achieved their things through your podcast. So it's been good, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate the kind words. So much in the support, just seeing everything. It's awesome to see some of the people that we, grew up with or went to school with, and to see all these different journeys of people taking different paths in life, but finding their own way of finding meaning and fulfillment. And so I've loved seeing that in you, and that's why I absolutely had to have you here to share your story. So where does the story begin, and what led to Go Ministries and Collide Coffee?
Yeah, so the story kind of goes back, if you want to kind of start back all the way at the beginning, I would say it almost started in our immigration story. So our family immigrated from Cuba in 1996. And I would say ever since then, I've always had a very entrepreneurial, just go-get-it attitude. I get that from both my mom and my dad. My dad has started multiple businesses, just like in the handyman and HVAC world. My mom has done awesome stuff in nonprofit and just speaking and leadership, but she's just always been a go-getter. And I think that just got poured into our family's DNA. And now I'm seeing it kind of in my kids' DNA as well. But with it, I was actually working in the banking industry at the time. And I took a trip to the Dominican, and while I was down there, I just absolutely I fell in love with the mission of Go Ministries, of what they were doing in their communities, and just loving on people in their communities, and just the simplicity of getting to know your neighbor, meeting their needs, just loving on them, and everybody growing together. And there was this one particular, he was our Dominican founder, and he moved from a rural area into the city, and he was like, hey, there's a need for a school. I'm going to start a school. And hey, there's a need for a church. I'm going to start a church. And hey, there's a need for medical care. So I'm going to do some medical clinics on a small scale. And hey, there's needs for youth to get involved in something positive. So let me do some sports camps. Let me do some basketball camps and some volleyball camps and some baseball camps. And it just grew. Everybody just kind of fell in love with this vision that this guy had put together. And it's just grown over the last 30 years. And I was like, man, this is awesome. So came back on a Tuesday and after my trip, and then I met with them on Wednesday. And then after some time, started that following year in April. And that was kind of what got into the Go Ministries journey. What was really, really attractive about the organization was they were looking at doing things totally different in the nonprofit realm, specifically through business. So during my time, we've been able to start and operate new businesses along the way. But then came this coffee option. So in the Dominican, coffee is king. It doesn't matter if you're rich, medium class, or poor. Everybody loves coffee. Everybody has some relationship to coffee. The whole island of Hispaniola, actually for a huge part of history, was one of the main producers of coffee. Up until just a mix of like disease and other things just kind of infected the whole island. But the premise behind it came actually after a conversation that me and my friend Jason had of, man, we love the Dominican coffee. You know, we see that everybody else loves this coffee that we're also getting from the Dominican. How can we leverage that to do even more good? So, in about the fastest, most startup way that you're going to love, we started this company in about 60 days flat.
Yes.
So we spent 6 months just waiting for a sample of this coffee. We ended up getting 2 samples of coffee, and this was in June of 2017. Me and my buddy Jason, we horrifically cupped 2 different coffees from the Dominican, one from the south and one kind of from the central area. We picked one that we really, really loved, which was what's now and still our flagship coffee from the Ramirez estate, which is our Dominican baristas. So we picked that one. That one was the winner. And we were like, all right, so we have this. We have the coffee. So we have our product. And then it was like, okay, what do we want to do? What are we going to name it? And I can't even remember the other names that like we thought about, but we were like crashing things together because we were like, we wanted to bring like coffee and good together, and it was like crashing beans and like unificate. Anyways, we ended up at like looking at Google synonyms for like 30, 45 minutes trying to find things like coming together in kind of in an intense way and making an impact. And that's where we landed on Collide. So Collide, bringing 2 things together. So we got the name, and then all of a sudden it was like, all right, we have the coffee, we have the name, let's start designing some things. So in a matter of like 48 hours on Fiverr, we sent this out to like 3 different designers, got our original logo designed, got our vectors, our colors and everything, went to Shopify and started plugging everything in. I literally told Jason, I was like, we have to get everything done by August 1st because there's this chance that my son is going to be born, and I'm dedicating the whole first month to my son. So literally like July 31st, we get everything done. The sign on the website says under construction for the next 30 days, as like we're just fine-tuning the last little bits of details. My son comes on August 1st, so I'm glad that we got everything done just in time. So we lay off on August. And then September 1, we started the actual pre-orders. We bought 150 pounds of coffee. That was like our test run. Because I was like, all right, if we can sell 150 pounds of coffee, you know, yeah, we know a lot of people, but it's like, man, 150 pounds of coffee, that's a lot of coffee. That's 150 coffee bags roughly, even with loss. So I was like, can we do that even in 30 days? So we launch it and it blows up. People are like, oh my gosh, We love it. Yes. Can't wait to get my bag. It's going crazy. Jason and I, we go have coffee at a local coffee shop on September 25th. And I look at him and I say, I don't think we have enough coffee. And we sold out of our first 150 pounds of coffee by September 25th. So I immediately got on the horn with our importer and I said, hey, I need another bag quick. And then at the time, I went into our COO's office for Go Ministries and I said, I think we have something here. And we kind of haven't looked back. We've gone through ups and downs and the struggles of COVID, the struggles of increase in costs and everything else along the way. But where the future is kind of laying out for us, we're really, really excited. So that's kind of been the journey that's gotten us to now. And now, a couple years ago, we were super blessed with our new addition. She's our head of operations. Her name's Tiffany Liu. Has tons of coffee shop experience with a huge background in Starbucks for numerous years, manager position at an airport, which I didn't know this. Those types of locations, they can run through $3 to $5 million a year. Yeah. High pace, high volume, high interaction. So we were able to add her to the team, and she's just been growing our mobile operations, our coffee trailer, just through the roof. Just creative drinks, just fun. Just people just love meeting her and chatting with her. It's just a fun experience, and the end-all be-all goal is to get into a brick and mortar. That's her goal, is to be able to get in there and build her regular people and, make sure that people understand. So our catch line is be a part of the good. And that's what we want people to know is that when they're buying coffee, whether it's a drink or if it's a bag of coffee, they are impacting, they are being a part of the good that is happening in the Dominican Republic by being able to provide these medical clinics and this medical care to developing communities. So it's kind of it in a nutshell.
It's an inspiring story, and I love so many lessons just in that brief piece of the story in terms of responding to obstacles that came up, adapting, communicating with your partner, communicating with Go Ministries, like finding the way that you make this all work. And I really enjoy hearing, I saw a need and took action. He saw a need for this, he took action. He saw a need for this, he took action. A lot of people see a need and sit on it. A lot of people see a need and think about it, but are too afraid to take the action. That's a big piece of the podcast. That's a big piece of like why I wanted to start this, because I want people to know that it's okay to experience that fear, but that you can still take the action while feeling the fear. And that's why I love bringing people like you in to talk about taking the action. And people see a lot of the good stuff. They see a lot of the growth, They see the success. They don't see what goes on behind the curtain. All of the struggle, all of the obstacles that you did have to overcome. So thank you for sharing that brief piece of the story. And for me, cash line for the podcast is where your why is bigger than your excuses. I talk about having a why bigger than your excuses all the time. And I love your mission. It's so impactful what you're doing to help underdeveloped communities in the Dominican Republic. Can you talk about the impact you've been able to make so far and what your goals are with that moving forward and with helping those underdeveloped communities?
Yeah, so our why really was the Dominican Republic. We saw a need, and we've done everything from education. We've done everything from a little bit of disaster relief, and we've done some things domestically here too. When the tornadoes went through Western Kentucky, this was last January. We had just wrapped up our Christmas sales. We had some inventory in there, and we were like, man, we can do a Christmas sale and make money. But it's like, man, we got people in our community. We got people in our state that are homeless. So we sat down and we were like, let's just do something wild and let's just sell every bit of coffee this month and let's donate the whole thing.
Yes.
And people went crazy for it because, like you said, people are sometimes afraid to take that action. But if you can make it simple enough for them to at least start that engagement, people will do it. That's what I've learned. So with that, we also want to do things here locally. One of our newest additions, her name is Avery. And our hopes is to do much more like local training. Here we have young people that are also wanting to learn trades. We have people that are wanting to have a second chance. People that have had hiccups in life, whether it's by addiction or incarceration. We want to be an avenue for some of these people and give them a second chance, whether it's learning money management with a cash register or learning customer service and, hey, how can you take a drink? Or maybe it's packing fulfillment. Maybe it's packing up a coffee bag in a shipment. It's like we can give you that second chance, and then you can take that to a way bigger company. You can go be a manager at Amazon eventually. Our goal is to do much more of that, and we want the trailer to be an avenue for that. The trailer is big enough that it can't fit a ton of people, but the trailer is big enough that it will fit 1 to 2 other individuals so that we can teach you some of these things. We want to break into more of that.
Yeah.
Our give back financially is always going to be there. That's a no-brainer. But we want to do more hands-on things, and that's going to be something in the next coming up evolution. That's the thing that kind of I'm excited about is the startup avenue of it is done. I did my part. Now it's this next kind of evolution of Tiffany as the head of operations, getting the business to the next level, doing more events, the coffee shop, etc. Then you have this next wave in Avery that we have coming that wants to be in the impact, in the trenches with the people, loves the coffee, loves the mission, but she wants to see that impact grow immensely locally. So that is what I'm really, really excited kind of in that next evolution.
Hearing everything be focused around helping others, giving back to others, and the story behind helping the tornado victims by selling off and seeing how people gathered around that. I think that there are a lot more people than sometimes we even realize that do want to do good, that do want to make an impact, sometimes don't know where to start. And so when you're able to create something that gives people an avenue, something to rally around, to be able to make a contribution and to help, I see that a lot in what you're doing. So I love that piece. I also love that the way that you talk about the people that you've brought in to help, the buy-in to the concept, the having values that tie into what you're building. It's very important when you're starting something I talk about from good to great. He talks about get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off.
Right.
And if you get the right people on the bus from the beginning, it's a lot easier to grow successfully.
100%.
And it looks like you're living that. You're seeing the benefits of that through the growth that you all have experienced. A lot of people don't get started because they say they don't have the money, or they don't have the time, or I don't have the equipment I need, or whatever it is. So it's often tied around resources in some form or capacity, but I don't have the resources to do that.
Right.
You started from very little. 150-pound bag of coffee that you got, an initial investment. So can you talk about the resources you started with, how you leveraged limited resources to grow to where you currently are with the coffee truck?
So one of the things that we learned instantly, and since then we have found this out in multiple relationships that we've seen in other business industries, is There's people that are always going to keep their door blocked. Like they don't want, there's like a barrier into that industry. But there's a whole nother group that understand that if all of the ships, like as the tide rises, we all rise together. So along with that, we have found relationships that wanted to leverage that with us. So how we started was super unique. There was a roaster that had a roaster. He put up all of the money. And essentially what we were doing is we were buying time on a roaster. We were just sharing it. We found a roasting partner that we loved. His name's Caleb. He has a company out of Southside Chicago area, one of the suburbs. But he also believed in our concept. He believed in us, and he wanted to work with us. So we spent time working on the branding and the packaging and the fulfillment, nailing all of that stuff out. And then he was able to take that on from the get. So I didn't have to learn how to be a roaster. I didn't have to go buy a roaster. I didn't have to go buy boxes. At the time when we were starting out, I didn't even have to buy bags. He was buying a similar bag that I was. He was like, just buy them from me. So instead of buying 10,000, brown bags at $1,000, he was like, just buy them from me at 47 cents a piece. And that's how we started. If I had to put a dollar figure of what we actually started with, I would say it was no more than $700. I know that in the initial startup capital, that included the whole run-up. We raised $7,000 to get everything started, and that was 6 months of operation. That included marketing, bags, a little bit of everything. Yeah. And I know in the initial to get started off of the ground, we didn't come near using that. Like our 150-pound bag was like $400. Our labels, like our first 100 run of labels, was no more than $100. Bags, we were buying them one by one from our partner at 47 cents. So if I had to put a number, I'd say we used no more $700 really to get it started. The biggest thing was finding the right people that were already using the equipment and then figuring out, hey, what's the right dollar figure for us to use your equipment, or you do the thing on your equipment for us and then allow us to repackage it. That was the biggest thing. That happens more times than people think, even with the big brands that they love, even with the local brands that they love. People don't see the behind the scenes things of, it's really one company that's making it for multiple different brands. They've just negotiated some deals. So by no way, shape, or form should you let the financial piece hold you back on something that you want to pull the trigger on. There's always a way to figure it out. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't even require financing. Like, you don't need a loan. I think our generation is finding that out more than any other generation, where before it was like, I need to have a polished business plan and I need to present it to a banker and I'm going to get a 50 or 100,000 or $1 million loan and then I can start my business. No, you need like $150, a Facebook page, maybe a Instagram, and maybe a farmer's market, depending on what you're selling. And then it's getting after it. Then it's people see your energy, people see the brand behind your story, and then you build momentum from there. And then it's, oh yeah, hey, along the way, let's firm up the business plan, or hey, let's firm up this thing, or hey, yeah, maybe a $50,000 loan is going to allow us to triple in sales this year. Those things come. Yeah. But you can cut your teeth and start a business with very little these days. I mean, the world of the internet is making these things way easier than any generation before us.
And people see the passion and they see the impact, and it grows organically from that. They see your passion behind what you're building. So it didn't require as much of a financial investment up front. It required time. It required passion. You can find those, You have those. You can dedicate those things right now. The thing is people, once you tell yourself that you don't have the resources or you don't have the money, you close your mind off to finding out how can you get those things.
Right.
And that's what stops a lot of people. If you just, in your story, I didn't know how to roast coffee. I found somebody who did. Like, you don't have to know everything. All you have to do is identify the gap, identify the piece of information that's missing, identify the resource you don't have.
100%.
And just figure out how to get it. We live in a world that is easy to find a way to get it.
Very easy.
Whatever you're missing, you can find a way to get it. So that piece of your story is fantastic. You started with so little and have grown it substantially through time investment and passion.
Yep.
Is what I see. So we've talked about some challenges, but I always love to really dive into, one or two biggest obstacles.
Yep.
And how you either overcame it or learned from it.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot. There's a lot behind the scenes that I have no problem opening up the curtains of, like, here's the struggles that we went through. In our particular, in starting Collide, the marketing aspect of it for our particular, like in Louisville, we have huge coffee players here. So we're trying to, like, break off a bite. It's always something that, like, still to this day, we're still working on it. We're, like, trying to carve out, what's our little piece of this big pie. We're learning through tools. We're learning through mentors. We're learning through relationships, like what we talked about. What are other coffee relationships that we have that we can leverage? Hey, what did you learn about this? How did you get to this level? Asking those questions. We're still asking those questions all the time. Figuring out where you fall in the marketplace, because we have a following just like any, but we want more people, to understand who we are. We know the type of product that we put out there. So it's always, I think it's a constant challenge. I think with any type of, I would still consider us in the startup realm in that aspect of it. It's always going to be a challenge. We're not put off by it. We're some days we're encouraged by it. Some day we're not so encouraged by it, but that's okay. But we understand that we got to go out there and we got to, take the pictures and the videos, and we got to, like, do the events. And no, we're not 100% happy all the time, but we balance that out with other good days. I would say another challenge for us as a startup has been getting the right people. Now I think we have the right people. Yeah. But that's a very legit thing that, like, you have to hunt after. I mean, when you think of, this is one of the things that I've had to work through personally is, I look at Collide like my baby. Like, it's something that it was kind of birthed out of my kitchen, but it's not so much of, like, my day-to-day operations. There's so much more that I'm doing now for, our bigger, for our ministry more than the coffee company. But because I was part of the inception of it, because I was, there's things that I would do for it that I know that future employees aren't going to do for it. Yeah. There's that like founder syndrome that I still fall into. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, let's just work 12 hours to get it done. It's like, no, that's not a thing. People love our mission and they're passionate, and, Tiffany and Avery don't mind being in the trenches if we're all in the trenches. Yeah. But I can't, it's not fair for me to be like, yeah, hey, Avery, hey, Tiffany, work these 12-hour days. I would work these 12-hour days. Why wouldn't you? It's not a fair thing. It's something that I'm learning. It's something that we've been able to walk through. It's a challenge. Yeah. I think any founder, it doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Twitter, Tesla. When you look at Elon Musk, works longer hours. There's weight that he carries that nobody else inside the company carries. It's part of that founder syndrome. It's a constant thing that I'm working on. I think I'm getting a little bit better at it finally this year. But I think it's like a constant challenge. I think it's always going to be there a little bit. But we're getting through it a little bit at a time.
Yeah. And part of that is like, first off, just building awareness of it. And so you're aware of it, and that in itself allows you to start to consciously take deliberate actions toward, improving in those areas. So I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
Also, I really enjoy the piece about reaching out to other coffee businesses in the area to learn from.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when starting a business, you might come in with a mindset of looking at them as competitors. I'm selling coffee. They sell coffee. We're competition. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, and some industries may have some differences. I do believe the coffee industry is a very friendly, inviting, welcoming industry. But a lot of people want to help. A lot of people like sharing their experience. And just like you said, if I say it right, rising tides
raise all ships. Yep.
So it's good to help each other. It's good to lend that information to help another person in the industry. You just have to be active in reaching out and to, showing. And when they see your passion and your genuine, concern of I want to help this industry.
Right.
They want to help you. They want to share their resources, their knowledge, what they've learned.
100%.
So that you're able to grow too.
100%.
So I love hearing that. I love seeing that. And I think it's important for people to understand that you don't have to come in looking at other people in the same industry as competition, but rather as allies or people that you can connect with and learn from. Now, some people and in some industries, you are going to get turned away. I mean, it all depends on what you're doing.
It's going to happen. Yep.
Yeah. But that also doesn't mean that you don't find someone else.
Right.
I think it's important to point that out.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I love, and I've done this in kind of everything in my life, is I always try to find a mentor in some kind of avenue that I'm always going to learn from, whether it's from the business development side in coffee, whether it's in business development and ministry, whether it's, coffee trailer operations. And that's something that I pour into our crew as well. Whether it's going to business lunches, what are the other business owners doing? What are the other food trucks doing? Mm-hmm. Why are they doing it like this? Why are we doing it different? Do they know something better? And then getting out there and asking them.
Yep.
There's been so many times like that where it's just been like, hey, can we just ask you a quick question? And it's like, oh yeah, I made that mistake and this mistake. And oh yeah, no, don't talk to this lady. Talk to this other lady. This lady will help you, file these papers better. Yeah, they'll give you the insights because they're like, oh yeah, I remember when we were there too.
Yeah.
That happens more times than you would think.
Yeah.
Is what I have found. Very few times has it ever been like, you work for where? Yeah, no way. Mm-hmm. Most of the times it's like, let me slip you a piece of advice. Almost 9 times out of 10, that's been the case. Mm-hmm. So
people want to help. So I'm really big on trying to establish a good review and refinement process. I think it's very important to constantly evaluate, are you making progress in the right areas? Are you focusing on the right priorities? It's easy if you're not doing reviews to get a little off track.
Right.
So just curious, do you have any kind of established regular review process in relation to your long-term goals for the company? And if so, how frequently, and what does that review process look like for you?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've loved on a short-term basis is I love a weekly check-in, and it's 5. It's quick. I asked 3 questions, and it's what did you do last week? Like, what did you accomplish last week? What are you aiming to do this week? And then there's like a fun question. It's like, what did you have this weekend? What was your favorite restaurant? Like something fun you did with your family, something fun. But it's just like a check-in. It's like, all right, how are things going? I do a monthly check-in of like, hey, how's the month going? We look at the financials. We look at the analytics. We nerd out on those things. But then one of the things, and you've mentioned it twice already, is actions. So one of the things that I've implemented in my life last year is this concept of a scorecard. And I actually got it from a high-end local executive that I met. And she gave me the cheat sheet into her life. I was like, how did you function all of these things? She gave me the cheat sheet into her life. And I've modified it into mine. I've modified it into, my ministry area. I've modified it into the business. I've modified it into the people around me. But it's this concept of a scorecard. So in this scorecard, one of the things that, one of the top things to grade is the actions. What's the actions that you're putting in there? So then the other three areas are much more results based. But you can't get the result without the actions.
Yeah.
And the actions are a mix of things that you daily do, a mix of things challenging to do, and things that like you're striving to get better at. So whether it's like making a phone call, writing a thank you note, making reaching out to a business, making a particular sales call, whatever it might be, shooting a sales email. There's a certain amount of actions that it's going to take before you even get the first touch. What do they say in sales? It takes 5 to 6 calls before you even get a conversation. That's 5 to 6 actions that we get to take down. So actions, let's track those things. Like let's because it's just going to happen over time. The more actions that you put in place, the other 3 things will come. So then we grade things like social media success, sales, events. There's me personally, like there's it can be personal, professional development things that you're grading on too, like a new certification, those types of things. But the actions piece is the big one. Like that goal for all of the scorecards that I make for my team, that I make for mine, like, so those are based on a quarterly basis. So that scorecard for me personally, I do 1,200 actions a quarter, which sounds like a huge number. It's like, what in the world? But it's like, that's 400, I probably write 200 thank you notes a month, just, things related to ministry or business. I probably make 150 phone calls. And then I have tons of meetings all the time. Shoot emails left and right that are related to the things that I'm working on. And then it's like, oh, okay, like that's a much more reasonable number. And now all of a sudden, yeah, that's 1,200 right there, because there's 3 months that speak into that quarter. So, but actions, the more actions that you can throw in there, the other things will come.
Yes.
They will come.
And actions that are intentional toward the goal you're trying to pursue. Like not action for the sake of action, but actions that are
100%. Yeah. Has to be related to making the other things happen. So, can't just be shooting your mom an email and be like, tick one off. It's like, no. Yep. Your mom's not going to buy coffee. Your mom's not going to, allow us to park in her driveway and sell coffee out of her driveway. That one doesn't count. It's got to be intentional actions to reach your other 3 goals, whether they're marketing based, whether they're sales based, whether they're, other deliverables, whatever it might be. But it's to hit the other things. Yeah. So it's got to be actions that speak into those things.
Absolutely. Getting that scorecard from the executive that you had the opportunity to connect with and kind of receive as a mentor, it sounds like. I really like that you said you got the scorecard and you modified it. to your situation, to what fits your life. I think that that's very important because there's an endless amount of books and podcasts and motivational speakers and people who, are like, I have the success formula. It's not 100% the same for everyone. Right. There are definitely, there are definitely some things that apply to any scenario and situation.
Right.
But I think it's important to understand that what works for one person may not work for you. So it's good to look at their scorecard and identify which things are in line with, what helps you advance, what fits into your story, your journey, and you can add other things in, you could take things away, but it gives you a starting point and a foundation. So I think it's great to point out that modification, but having the resource to start with.
Yeah, it's huge because, this executive scorecard tracked things that it's like 3 things I didn't even know. She was tracking 5 different things all weighted at 20%. And she was like, you don't have to weigh each of these 5 things at 20%. You can, speaking on the coffee side, 30% of our scorecard is the sales aspect because we want to hit those numbers. Those numbers are going to allow us to get to the next level in the business. 20% is actions, 5% is events. It can be a mix of those things, and that can be anything in your life. That can be, pick the industry. Say you're a cashier at Walmart, but you eventually want to be a manager. What are the daily actions that you can take into play to reach your goal? Is it a certain amount of conversations? Is it signing up for extra shifts? What are the things that are applicable to help you reach your goal? And then just modify those things. Over time, you're going to understand which things are going to be more important for you to hit in order to reach that goal, and then just apply a higher percentage. So then you can grade yourself.
Yeah.
Because if not, if your goal is to open up a coffee business, but you don't set the right kind of metrics along the way in order to reach that goal, how do you know what's the timeline for you to actually reach it? Like, what's the timeliness of it? But then how are you going to know that you're on pace? Like,
right.
Am I way behind? Am I nowhere near the start line? Have I even left the start line? And that can be applied to anything. It doesn't even personal goals, family goals, professional goals, whatever it might be. You gotta put in some metrics along the way to just kind of see where you're at.
Yeah. Part of setting the goal should be establishing the time. Like, when do I want to reach this goal by? That's part of the specifics of even setting the goal. That's step 1 of the process. Once you have that timeline set, you can backwards plan. Now you can set in kind of mini timeline goals, break it down incrementally. Right. So now you're like, okay, for me to reach that by that date, I need to be able to accomplish this amount each month. If I need to accomplish that amount each month, that means I need to do this amount each week. If I have to do this amount each week, then that means I need to do this amount each day.
Right.
So you can break it all the way down once you establish that timeline, and then you hold yourself accountable. Like, it gives you something to hold yourself accountable to. Right. So I want to get into this piece. I always love to bring family into the conversation because family is. That's what we do all of it for.
Right.
I mean, that's the most important thing in life, in my opinion. I don't know if everyone agrees or not, but for me, it's family.
Right.
That's what we work for, and what provides the most value in our lives, I feel like. You're such a loving husband and father. Okay. And there are a lot of people who do not pursue the dream that they have, that they don't make the impact that they think about and they want to make, and they use the family as an excuse. Like, this is going to take time away. This is going to take time away from my family, and I want to be a present person for my family.
Yeah.
I give that as the precursor kind of to say that I love seeing real life examples of people who are going after it, who are making an impact and being devoted to their family as well, making that time, being present for their family. And so I want to ask, I know balance is different for everyone. How do you balance the two of making the impact and being the present husband and father?
Balance is a thing that I think my wife and I are constantly just checking in. And not everything works for every single family. Like I know some families that are balanced out, they have every minute of every second planned out like in a family Google calendar, and that works for them. That's great. That's not how my family functions. That's not how I function. So I think one of the crucial pieces that I can probably not say enough, if I could say it into this mic 15 times, I would say communication. Communication is your number one key. And this is the one thing that I've seen just like in our friends, that are married, the amount of couples that I see that just don't communicate those things together and set those foundations through communication, it creates such a hard balance. Because it's, whether it's like, hey, honey, I really need a round of golf today. Like, work is killing me. Setting that precedent. Or, hey, I'm going to work late tonight. There's just setting those foundations in communication are going to give you so much leverage. Within that, for setting your goals and your family's goals, that also needs to be included in there. So one of the things that my wife and I do is we do at night, like put the kids to sleep. We always like to just like a check-in. Hey, what's going on? But one of the things that we just realized, and I cannot say that enough, we realized this in the 10 years of marriage, like how important the communication aspect is. We joke around all the time. We've been joking around for this last year since we've celebrated our 10-year anniversary. It took us 10 years to figure out the right level of communication. 10 years.
Yeah.
To figure out like, okay, this is how it's going to work for us. And now we're like such in a sweet spot. So within that balance, now it's like, hey, honey, here are some of the goals that I have. And this is her to me to her. The kids, hey, Mom, Dad, I want to do X. Okay, how can we make these things happen? Do we need to cut back on something else? Do we need to, is it working a unique schedule? There's those types of, but without the communication, it's so hard. And the amount of times that I've run into people that it's like, hey, does your wife actually know that you want to do this? No, I haven't told her. Really?
Yeah.
Well, how can your wife hold you accountable?
Right.
How can she support you? How can she encourage you? I laughed the other day because our friend Joey, who was also on the podcast, he put the he put like the ramp of an entrepreneur, and it just went like this. You have these deep valleys where it's like, oh, I ruined everything, and then you have these great highs where it's like everything's going great.
Yeah.
If you don't communicate with your family, and this can be your wife, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, if you don't communicate with somebody in your family, like what your aspirations, what your goals are, they also can't hold you accountable too. They might know ways to encourage you. They might know connections of how to get you to your goal faster.
True.
But if you don't share that, if you don't communicate that, that's rough. Yeah. Right. Like I'm stuck. I'm stuck at the starting line from the get. So I think communication is super key.
Yeah.
The other thing is, this is me personally, is I leave work at work for the most part. My wife has an understanding that in my job, whether working internationally in the Dominican Republic, sometimes I get calls after 5. I try to limit those things as much as I can.
Yeah.
So when I'm spending time with my kids, when I'm spending time with my wife, it's family time. But one of the things that it's an okay thing that we've developed is my wife goes to sleep early. My kids go to sleep early. By 9:30, 10 o'clock, they're out. That's not the case for me. I still have an hour to 2 hours of work that I can crunch on. So if I have a goal in mind, or something I'm like researching, like what we talked about before the podcast, just researching something, I'll take that hour and research, whether it's in my bed, whether it's going down, to my office in the basement. It doesn't matter. Typing up something on the laptop, shooting an email. And that's a balance that I've just personally created for me. All right, my family's out for the day. They don't care what I do right now. This is me time right now.
Yep.
So I can go do things into my goals, whether for business, whether for ministry, whether for personal development, whether it's fun things. But now I have this like 1 hour to 2 hour time before my bedtime that I can knock out these things. People, what I see a lot of times is people look at their bedtime and it's like, all right, like I clocked out at 5. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, but if you have an aspiration for a business, or an aspiration for a personal goal, or an aspiration for a family goal, how are you going to turn that off at 5? How are you going to set a limitation around that?
Yeah.
I mean, you're building yourself a massive crutch instantly on reaching your goal. It's like, I'm gonna shut off.
Yeah.
Why? It's 5 o'clock. You're not gonna go to bed till 10. It's like, if you need an hour, tell your wife, hey honey, I'm gonna take the next hour to achieve this goal. Keep the kids, and then I promise I'll put them to bed. I'll see you at dinner, put them to bed. That's where that communication piece is, what I have found is the most crucial piece.
Yes.
Because it creates balance for both, me and my wife. My wife tells me, hey, I need this. Take the kids, I'm gone. All right, I got it.
Yeah.
Or it can be vice versa, of like, hey, I had a bad day. I just need 15 minutes. Okay. And that is what's worked for us.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that people got to figure out is, what's that come to play in your family? And that doesn't have to be a wife or kids. Sometimes that's mom, dad, brother, cousin. Maybe it's a girlfriend. Maybe it's friends. But it's like setting that type of balance with them, I think, is what's important. But you got to communicate those things. That's where it's crucial.
So I hear a lot of teamwork in there. Like when I think of any team sport, communication is a critical factor to success for that team. And so I look at my wife as a partner.
Right.
Like we are a team. I tell my kids we are a team.
Right.
Like we work together, and communication can't be emphasized enough. I had a business communications teacher that explained to us, without understanding, communication cannot take place.
Oh, that's good. That's real good.
I've held on to that the last, that was probably 12, 13 years.
That's real good.
Since I had that class. And it rings so true, because just because you say something to someone doesn't mean that it was actually communicated.
Right.
Do they understand why you said that? Do they understand the reason behind it?
Did they understand the why behind it?
Yeah. So there has to be understanding for that communication to take place. And then also you have to take the time for yourself to fill your own cup. That's exactly what it sounds like you were talking about. That's my understanding of it is, the family's asleep. I still have some in the tank. I know what my goals are. I'm driven to, I'm going to go put some work in.
Right.
And it takes away from no one else. But that is what you want and need to do to feel fulfilled, to feel accomplished for the day. And so it's so important to find the times to fill your cup. And then the other thing, where you talk about time and not cutting off at 5, if you will go to work and work from 9 to 5 for somebody else, why won't you come home and put a couple hours toward yourself, toward whatever it is that you want to accomplish? The work that, like, if you work for somebody else, and you're putting all that time in to help build somebody else's dream, why won't you give yourself 2 hours, 3 hours?
100%.
You have to create it for yourself. So those are such great takeaways. You launched your new website.
We did.
In March. So super new.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, within the life cycle of a business, there's iterations of it, So one of the things with Tiffany coming into the fold a couple years ago is she wanted to speak into that next evolution of where Collide was going. So Tiffany, Shay, who runs all of our marketing media, she's crazy at that. And then Avery, we had multiple sessions with a branding professional that walked us through and asked us hard questions. Really dug into what is the why behind the business? What do we want to communicate? How do we want to communicate it? And out of that, we did our rebrand. Not the name of it, but just the logo and the aesthetics and how everything looked. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to be very clear about what we were communicating and why we were communicating it and how we communicated it. So we poured a lot of time and energy. Yeah. And we launched that in March. We had our relaunch party here locally, and that was a lot of fun. And I think people have really, really loved the concept. People are loving the new logo. I think people are finally connecting that picture of buy the coffee and I'm a part of the good. Mm-hmm. Buy more coffee, more good happens.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I can say I've been on the website. It looks great. It's very easy to navigate. And I love the way that you did your relaunch party, the way that what you are doing allows people to be a part of the good. Mm. Is there anything I didn't ask today or that we didn't hit on or talk about that you think would just be helpful to share that somebody might be able to take action on or apply to their journey?
Yeah. One of the things that I have noticed more than ever, and this is what I would encourage anybody right now to do, especially if you're in your 20s to early 30s, this is the number one thing that I would do is take the time and invest in yourself. Mm-hmm. I see it all the time. People that, by the time that they hit 35, they have one skill set. It's they're good at X. And it's all right, if now that company or that industry goes under, what are you going to do? You have one skill set. Mm-hmm. I was even almost telling my brother not too long ago of hey, you got to learn some new skills. You got to pick it up. Whether that's web design, whether that's SEO, social media stuff. Yeah. Even just how to build a podcast, whatever it might be. There's so many great courses online right now, more than ever. Whether it's masterclass, whether it's there's this online courses called Udemy, where it's professionals in the industry are teaching you these courses. So now you can learn about how to launch a podcast or how to launch a business or how to do Facebook marketing or how to do TikTok marketing, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. Read some books, find some mentors, go get some wisdom, learn new skills while you still can, while you're in your 20s, early 30s, and build that up. Because when you're in your 30s and 40s, all of those skills are just going to come into play in big ways. There's all kinds of things that I learned for Collide that now I'm leveraging in other spots. Yeah. I built that website. I don't know how to build a website in 2017. I Googled how to build a website using this platform, and I built it. I learned how to do small bits of code. I learned image cropping on digital platforms. Yeah. But it was those 2 hours of the day, on YouTube or, Google, hunting the stuff down and building, the bag of tools in order to do these things. That is my biggest thing that I would tell people. And even after, while in your 20s and 30s, build it heavy. but never lose that learning mentality. The second, I mean, we hear it all the time. The second you stop learning, you start dying.
Yeah.
And it really is true. The second that you think that you're an expert in a field and you know everything, oh yeah, you just shut the door in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
You always got to be learning new skills, and especially in our time and age where technology is changing everything almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You got to keep that learning mentality. There's things that I'm not going to learn TikTok. It's beyond me. But you always got to be learning something, whether it's in a book, whether it's in a course, whether it's from somebody else, whether it's in a good podcast. I think that's so important, and we cannot forget that. That would be my biggest takeaway.
You have to constantly grow. I agree 1,000%. And a thing that I want to add into that, when you talk about that 20s age range, when you go to school, you have a very structured system through all of your childhood up until, 18-ish years old. And you're going into your early 20s and you've had this structured system and you're in that early process of, okay, now what? Now I don't have that structured system anymore. And so I hear people all the time, and I know that I was there. I know that my wife was there. I know that everybody a lot of the people that I talk to through their 20s aren't sure which direction to take. They're like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm not really,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what path I want to take. You don't have to know the exact path you want to take to develop yourself.
Right.
And often just by finding ways to grow and to learn, you will stumble upon your purpose and your path. Like it will come to you naturally just through growing, even if you don't know exactly what you're growing for yet.
Right.
So I just want to add that in there. Growth 100%, but you don't have to know yet.
100%.
Just take action. Just start learning. You might not know how you're going to apply it yet, but it's kind of like putting money into an investment account.
100%. That's a real good way of talking about it.
That knowledge is going to compound for you, and it's going to pay off later.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. What's the website and the best way for people to connect with you?
The best way is go to our website. So it's collidecoffee.co. And then you can follow us on social media. It's Collide Coffee Co. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It posts where the trailer is going to be constantly, all of the events that we're at. You can buy subscriptions. We'll deliver to your business. All 48 states. We'll ship it wherever you want.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to make sure that I put the website link in the show notes. I appreciate your time and sharing your story. So many great takeaways from today's episode, and I know that this is going to help people to listen. So if you all found a good takeaway, make sure you share it. Thank you all for tuning in, allowing us to be on the journey with you, and we want to connect. Send messages, share your thoughts and questions on social media. It helps us a lot if you like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review, because it helps other people find us. And that's what it's all about, is growing. So comment with your thoughts and questions, and let's grow together.